Okay, everyone, if you are here, then you are ready to begin outlining your essay. Now, you should have two documents open for this assignment and this part of the essay writing process. We've talked a little bit about what this essay is going to be about. I'm going to quickly review that, and then we'll get into writing the introduction paragraph for your essay. But the two documents that you should have open are the following. You should have this one open, the essay outline for Unit 2, Breaking Through Barriers, Glory. And then you should also have the note-taking activity that you took with complete notes. As you can see, mine does not have complete notes. As well as you should also have this part finished with your 10 quotes that you selected for some of the characters that you plan on writing about. So you want this document open and you want this outline open. If you don't have either one of those open, pause the video and make sure you have them both open now. All right, if you're back, then I'm assuming you have both these documents, the note-taking document and the essay outline open. So we're ready to start outlining our introduction. So first, let's review the direction. So you already began gathering notes and information that you can use to outline your essay. So now you want to take those notes and information and complete the essay outline below. So here's the prompt that you're writing about. I know we covered this prompt numerous times. However, I do want to read it one more time just so you have an idea. This is exactly what you need to be writing about. In the film Glory, 1989, directed by Edward Zick, the theme of breaking through barriers is prominently depicted. Explore how the characters in the movie, particularly Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, other white officers, and various black soldiers of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, face and overcome various barriers during the Civil War. Analyze the personal, social, and racial barriers they encounter. Notice this part's in bold right here, personal, social, and racial barriers, because that's what you're going to be talking about in the body of your essay. But here is basically the structure of your essay. In a well-structured 5-paragraph essay, identify 3 characters who break through various barriers, provide examples from the film to support your analysis, and draw meaningful conclusions about the significance of breaking through barriers from each character. Now, the key things to point in on there is you have to write about 3 specific characters who broke through various barriers. You're going to have some examples from the film to support it. And you're ultimately going to draw some meaningful conclusions. But if you follow this outline that I have provided for you, all of that will be done for you just by filling in the boxes. So there's not a whole lot of extra thinking having to be done on your part. All you have to do is kind of follow the process. So, as you know, you're writing a 5-paragraph essay, and as we reviewed, the first paragraph is the introduction. Then you have a body paragraph 1, a body paragraph 2, a body paragraph 3, and then you have your conclusion paragraph. But for this video, we're simply going to be working on the introduction. Now, an introduction has 3 parts, as we've learned when we wrote our essays in the past. You open up with a hook and an opening statement. That is a statement that introduces the topic of the paper. You want to give a little background introduction on the title of the text or film that we're writing about, with a little bit of 2 to 3 sentence summary, basically the premise of the film. And then ultimately the most important part, the key part, the part that you're going to be evaluated the most on, is your thesis statement. Now, I know this says A, B, and C. However, if you remember from outlining essays, and we watched an ed puzzle on it back in the first quarter, you always want to start off with your thesis statement first. Because before you can do the other parts, you got to kind of have a thesis statement to know what your paper is going to be about. It's going to drive the rest of your paper. Now, your thesis statement is a direct claim in response to the essay's prompt. So basically, you have to write in a well-constructed statement a response to this prompt. Okay, so I'm going to help kind of guide you with this process, right? So first thing I needed to do is I needed to select which 3 characters that I wanted to write about and I wanted to focus on in this essay. So here's how I would write my thesis statement, right? I would write throughout the film, and you'll notice it's in bold. I bold the thesis statement because it's an important part of your essay. Several of the main characters. Now, here's where I'm going to list the three that I'm going to write about. Colonel Robert, sorry, making corrections here. Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, comma, Private Tripp, comma, and Thomas Surlis all encounter personal, social, or racial barriers that they must break through to ultimately show that. And then what I would do is I would end this statement by telling me what did this whole kind of story or the breaking through barriers actually prove to the audience? What did it ultimately show? What did it ultimately tell us as an audience? Now I'm leaving this part blank because this part is up to you. Now the rest of this thesis statement, if you wanted to, you can copy it, but you'd want to choose the three characters that you're writing about. You don't have to write about the same three characters that I'm writing about. You would write about the three that you want to choose. So you would go back to your outline and figure out which three characters do I want to focus on of the six that were provided. If you wanted to write about a different character that's not part of that six, make sure you ask me before you do so. But these were the three that I chose. Now, as you can tell, the rest of this is a direct response to the prompt. However, I left this part blank. And you wouldn't do three dots. Make sure you don't do that. I left that open. But you have to finish this statement. So what I'd like you to do right now is to pause this video and write your own thesis statement on your own outline. So pause the video and do that now. Okay, if you're back, then I'm assuming you have this box completed and that you have a full statement. Make sure that you did not leave this blank. Remember, you can always check your thesis statement with me, Mr. Gasway, just to make sure that it's correct before we're ready to go back and move on. Okay, now since the thesis statement is written, you now know what you're going to kind of write about, right? So now you can kind of work your way back to letter B and introduce the film, right? So the background information is simply you got to tell your audience what story am I writing about? You know, what if your audience going into your essay is not going to necessarily know what story you're writing about. So you want to give them a little bit of information, but you're not trying to give the story away. You're not talking about what happens in the beginning and middle and end. That's not part of this. It's not a summary. This is just a little bit of background information on the film. So here's what I would write. I would write something along these lines. The 1989, I like to include dates because I think they're important. Film Glory tells the story of the first all black regiment enlisted in the Union, that's the North Army, during the Civil, sorry, typo there, during the Civil War. Period. Now, I'm also writing about a film, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to underline the film title because remember, titles get underlined. Right? So I've introduced the title. The 1999 film Glory tells the story of the first all-black regiment enlisted in the Union Army during the Civil War. I'm sure you all know that. You watched the film, so you know that's what it's about. But now you still want to add a little bit more. You want 2 to 3 sentences about the film's basic premise. So basically, what was the film about? If someone were to ask you, what was Glory basically about in 2 to 3 sentences? What more can you say and elaborate on? But again, you want to keep it brief and you don't want to give the story away. Just a couple more sentences right here about this film. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to pause and complete the background box for your outline. Okay, if you're back, then I'm assuming that you have this box completed. Again, you should have more than just this statement. You should have another couple sentences or three at the most where you've told a little bit more about the basic premise of the film. So now that you have the background done, now that you have the thesis statement done, you're now ready to write your opening, right? Because we kind of worked our way backwards. Now we know what we're writing about. So now we want to write a powerful opening, a hook to open up for our audience. Some people like to start off with a question. Some people like to start off with an interesting fact about maybe the war, about the 54th of Massachusetts. Some people might want to talk about how this relates to our world today, this topic. There's so many ways you can open up your paper, but something to kind of open your paper and connect it and introduce it for your audience. Now, I'm not going to write anything here. This is going to be completely up to you to write your kind of own opening. Right? So, what I'd like you to do now is to pause the video and try writing an opening statement or two to begin your essay. All right, if you're back, then I'm assuming all three of these boxes are completed and all the processes have been done. If you're not sure, you want to check it with me, call me over. I'll be more than happy to check it with you. But if that is done, then your introduction is complete. That means your first paragraph out of your 5 paragraphs is already done. And you're ready to move on now to your body paragraphs. Your body paragraphs we will address in a different video. All you should be focusing on today is making sure your intro paragraph is done. If you've done that, congratulations, good job, and you'll be ready to move on to your body paragraphs very shortly.